Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of Micadelic. I'm Mike Brancatelli. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. I am hanging out with my good friend Bill Byrnes, founder of GoodCinema. We took to the park here in Denver, Colorado for a little social distance podcast and picnic. And we just kind of hung out and chatted as some of my best conversations always happen with some of my best friends when we're just hanging out and just rapping, waxing philosophical, being armchair philosophizers and sitting around talking about what we think as the world goes through this collective crisis and how we're approaching things and what we're doing, both as creative entrepreneurs, business owners and human beings. And so I think you guys will enjoy it. I love getting into conversations like this. I love, in Denver here, I started doing these things called mind jams, and I think I'm going to bring them to the virtual space. And the whole point of it is to get more people to talk, and not to necessarily be shy or afraid or have to qualify things. I'm not an academic. I'm not a scholar. I'm just somebody that happens to have interest in a lot of things, and I like to express those things. And I think the best way for people to be feeling like they're heard, like they're seen, like they have a sense of sense making in the world, like they know things, is to engage in dialogue with people around you and to open up. I always despise the saying, the phrase, no politics or religion, no discussion of politics and religion. It's like, yeah, let's just get rid of like a majority of life that is extremely impactful for all of us. It's like, no, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, which is the tagline. It just so happens is the tagline for GoodCinema. Let's talk about it. So that's why I love Bill Byrnes, one of my best friends, and I love that he loves to get people engaged, get people talking, get people connecting, and get people sharing ideas. And that's exactly what we do, and that's exactly what we encourage everyone to do. And that is, as I mentioned, what I was doing with my mind jams was getting people to come out of their shell, to express their opinions, their views, their thoughts, and to exchange it in dialogue with other people. I was listening to something that Duncan Trussell said the other day, actually. I don't know why this thought just came to me. I was thinking about like technology, and, recently I've been re-looking at some things like Noam Chomsky's Manufacturing of Consent, and one of my favorite books of all time, Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death. And he, one of the great quotes is, "People will come to adore the technologies that undo their capacities to think." And it's like, yeah, man, like we totally like love just to like and be entertained. We live in an entertainment world. We live in a world where we're just obsessed with technologies. And this thing that Duncan said the other day was, he's like, you would be around people and you'd be talking and someone would say something like, yeah, like where was that when was that show on? Seinfeld. That aired in the 70s, right? And like people are like, what? No, like how could you think Seinfeld did? When was the first date that Seinfeld aired? You tell me. I think it was 1979, wasn't it? And then someone would Google it and you'd find out the fact. No, it was 1989. But if we didn't go to the technology, something magical would happen, which I definitely experienced, before technology became so prevalent in our lives, which is that someone would say something like that wasn't true, and you would challenge them. And then where would it go from there? And oftentimes it goes into fun. No, dude, are you kidding me? And Jerry Seinfeld would be like 85 years old. Are you serious? Like, how could you possibly think that Seinfeld was made in the 70s? Dude, I'm telling you, I saw this thing. And then like they would say something and you'd go back and forth, and some fun and funniness and humor and silliness and some exploration of creativity would emerge from that. And there would be like a bonding moment among people. Imagination would be unfurled. And what Duncan was saying, which I agree with, was that's almost more important than knowing the facts. Like having that bonding, having that communication, having that dialogue, allowing for creativity and imagination and playfulness and silliness to emerge, and the discovery. And, maybe it goes on for a little bit and then eventually somebody checks and says, yeah, it turns out it was this. But even like I remember the great comedian Pete Holmes had a joke about this. He was like, "Remember not knowing?" It's a great bit, and I'm gonna do it because it's so great. But you go Google it and watch Pete Holmes. I think he did it on Conan, where he says, "Remember people would say like, hey, where's Tom Petty from?" And you'd be like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know." And he's like, and then you would be impregnated with wonder, and you would wonder, where is Tom Petty from? And then one day you'd meet a girl at a coffee shop, and she was wearing a Tom Petty shirt, and you said, "Hey, where's Tom Petty from?" And she'd say, "Florida." And then that's how you met. That was your wife, and you got married, and it was, and it's just like these beautiful, magical moments can occur when we actually surrender into like not knowing and not necessarily always caring about the facts and just allowing the conversation to have a life of its own. And I really do enjoy that. I enjoy that a lot. And I just thought about that, because of the world that we're living in right now and all the stories that are being told and all the technology that we're using to connect and share with each other and the fact checking and the data and everything. And, and also looking into these books these great books that I like. And, like Neil Postman's, Amusing Ourselves to Death, which I highly recommend. And Noam Chomsky's Manufacturing of Consent. And yeah, I'll probably do a solo cast. I will do a solo cast on these ideas. I want to do a solo cast about monopoly narratives, monopoly power, authority, and the manufacturing of consent, the creations of illusions, necessary illusions, as Chomsky calls them, in a democratic system, and the advancement of technology that augments the human spirit and the human communication, creativity, and connection, and how just another topic or another piece to that equation is talking about some things that I've been talking about on the show of how a lot of what's happening right now during this crisis is an implementation of a technocratic, more of a technocratic kind of surveillance state system that will move us into a more kind of digitally, framed world, like a world that technology and science will be here to have all the answers and save us. From we just listen to these select few sources that will sort of give a lot of our independence and our autonomy away and be lured into, as Postman says, the technologies that undermine our capacity to think, that undermine our capacity to have long conversations, that take away the things that make us feel most human, like being in a park and sitting in trees and connecting with people and going to music festival, doing these kinds of things. And if you look at China and you look at what they're doing, they're really ahead of us in terms of that, in terms of like that kind of technocratic way of governance. They have like a technocratic oligarchy over there with facial recognition, social credit, all that kind of stuff. And recently I tuned into the Tim Dillon Show, one of my favorite comedians, hilarious comedian, Tim Dillon. Go check him out. But also really smart and into a lot of the same ideas that I'm into. And he had this journalist, Whitney Webb, on, who basically said something that has confirmed what I've been talking about and thinking for a while, which is that the U.S. government sees China as a threat to take over world dominance of the sort of technology of control. And the United States government wants to be that way, because we always have to be the ones that export our values and ideologies to the world. So anyway, I'll do a solo podcast on all that stuff. I want to do a little bit more digging, a little bit more reading, not research. I'm not a researcher, so I'm not doing research. I'm doing reading, and I'm doing watching, and I'm doing thinking, and then I'm doing talking. So that's what I'm doing. So I'll do that. Anyway, I have a new Discord server that is available to patrons patrons of the show. So for all of you out there that are part of the Micadelic Patreon, you support the show. You can go to patreon.com/MikeBrank, BRANC, or you can go to my website. You could find it there. And I used to have a WhatsApp chat group, but now I've been using Discord. I'm in a couple other Discord servers, and I really like it. It's really cool. It's got a lot of cool features, and it's not a Facebook-owned company, so I like that too. So if you want to be a patron, you get access to the Discord server. We got awesome people migrating over from the WhatsApp chat group, the Inner Sanctum, the Micadelic Inner Sanctum, coming over there. And I think that it's going to be a really lively discussion. And I like the way that it's organized, and there's like a voice channel so people could pop in and we can chat, anytime that I'm on my computer. You could just pop in, say hi, we could talk, and you can connect with other people. So check that out. And if you're a fan of the show, please just share it and tell your friends about it. I really want to encourage everybody to start their own things, get creative, get inspired, like really reach out to me with your ideas and with your thoughts and with your opinions. That's really what I want more of. And that's why I like this Discord server, because I like connecting with people and exchanging ideas and thoughts, and just making this podcast feel more like a community. So and then the best way that you can help out is just to tell people about it, share it. A nice 5-star review always helps on Apple Podcasts. But anyway, I hope all of you are staying safe, healthy, sane, well, positive, and have some loving and caring people in your lives. And without further ado, let's get in this conversation with my good friend, Bill Byrnes.
Psychedelics are illegal not because a loving government is concerned that you may jump out of a third-story window. Psychedelics are illegal because they dissolve opinion structures and culturally laid down models of behavior and information processing. They open to us the possibility that everything we know is wrong.
We don't need new laws that control our consciousness and rigidly place it in a prison.
Cognitive liberty. The fact that as adults, if we're not hurting anybody else, we should have the right to explore the contours of our own consciousness without any mediation or legislation on the part of somebody else.
Reject authority. Authority is a lie.
Or is it perception?
Information is power, but we have to seize the opportunity. The opportunity.
Hello.
Check.
Check 1 2. Yeah, there's a typical way of doing the mic check. It's always a check and always a 1 2.
Yeah, chickadee check, microphone check 1.
Yeah. I always find that there's it's always difficult for me. I have to conjure up like a facade of an intro when I'm doing like hosting something or doing. Everybody does. You can't just like come out and open an event with just like, hey, what's up, everyone?
Why not? That's how I open events.
No,
I don't have entrance music.
No, I'm not I'm not talking about entrance music, but like you have to kind of turn it up a little bit to give like a welcome.
Yeah.
But I always feel like the best part of a conversation or the best part of things happens like in the middle.
Yeah.
When you kind of get warmed up. Louis C.K. had a good bit about this in one of his stand-up specials where he's like, there's no good way to open a comedy show. You don't know each other. You're just sitting next to each other, facing in one direction. I'm talking, and I kind of relate to that because there's no good way to like open.
Well, it depends if you're looking for the whole thing or just a little bit. Like in porn, you skip to the good parts. You don't watch the opening where they're trying to act. So,
no, trying to act. I haven't done that ever. I haven't done that since I didn't have fast forward on like the Scrambled Spice Network.
Right.
And we had to like
to ride it out.
stay up late at a sleepover and like watch like to get like a scrambled titty on the screen.
You wait till the scramble part like kind of slides up on the screen, and then you get to see half a nipple.
Yeah. Oh man, those are the days. New and novel, exciting, exploring.
Speaking of check, how's my volume level?
Yeah, that's what I was just doing. Yeah,
Okay.
checking the volumes, but it's all good. So I took the headphones off.
Cool.
Yeah, your volume level is good.
Okay.
Yeah, if these mics are good, and they're I forget what they're called, like omnidirectional or something.
Okay.
But I think like if you go here, nothing. If you go here, nothing.
Okay.
You got to be like right here.
Okay, got
Which
it.
is good because then it doesn't pick up so much outside noise.
Like I'm eating an ice cream cone.
Yeah, like you're eating an ice cream cone. Yeah.
Cool. There's no 6 feet rule with this,
With what?
with the mic.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Where's it
fine.
been?
You're fine, right? Oh, where's it been?
Yeah.
It's fresh. No
Okay.
one, no one's used it in over 2 months, probably.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
you're the first one to use it.
Well, good.
And it's a windscreen, so I could just get rid of the windscreen and use a different one.
Well, glad to bring some comfort to this lonely mic.
Yeah, no problem. It's a nice day out here, man. Sitting in Cheeseman Park in Denver, sun is just beating down on me. It's good to be outside. I haven't been outside in a couple days.
It's beautiful. It's good to see humans and some interacting with each other in groups of a handful or less, it seems.
Yeah, this feels healthy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't feel like there's a global pandemic happening. And I know I'm not saying that there isn't one. I'm just saying that when you come outside and you see people hanging out and enjoying the outdoors and nature and being in the sun and smiling and having fun, it feels like that creates that intention to be out here almost creates a healthier environment.
It's interesting you bring that up because I was thinking of that the other day, that it hasn't at all felt like it's been unhealthy or a pandemic, other than, maybe we're eating a little extra or not able to go to the gyms or whatnot, but streets are closed to cars.
Yeah,
in some
my
parts.
personal pandemic is I'm a fucking
Right.
fat ass again.
But yeah, there's streets that are open to people walking and biking and rollerblading, and instead of cars on the roads, and like that seems healthy, and people are out doing things, and yeah, it doesn't feel like a pandemic, even though it supposedly is.
It's nice. It is nice. There's just like everything in life, so many sides to the coin, or so many sides to the story. Like, no one says that. So many sides to the coin. There's only two sides.
Yeah.
That's not an expression.
I'm really bad at expressions, remembering them the right way. I think, what was a recent one I said?
Bird in the hand is worth more than teaching a fish how to drink water.
There you go. Or, there's a new horse in this town, or something like that.
Yeah. There's a new horse in this town, folks. And he's got COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is something nice about seeing people walking in the streets and less cars. Like, I saw something that said that you could see the I forget the name of the mountains, but you could see the mountain range clearly for the first time in over 30 years.
That was the Himalayas.
In the Himalayas
in
in India, that you could see them clearly. And like in Los Angeles, like the smog has cleared things up, and humpback whales are like swimming in Chicago River or something. Like I don't think that's true, but like all of like there's all this. We're taking a pause. Like I saw a meme that was like angels in heaven looking down at Earth, and they're like, yeah, it's not working so good. Maybe they should unplug it and wait and plug it back in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think as soon as this happened, I started noticing. I mean, now we're kind of full into spring, but when this started, we were just getting into spring, and I noticed buds on the trees, and I noticed my first flowers of the season. And as everything was stopping on the human side, everything else was waking up. And I think I've noticed a lot of it in myself too, of when my external self kind of pauses, my internal self kind of cranks up a little bit, and it's been a really just interesting journey so far. Yeah,
I guess I should also introduce you to my friend Bill Byrnes here, founder of GoodCinema. You got the Virtual Connection Fest coming up soon. That's exciting.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's cool being part of an intro. Usually it's you kind of waxing poetic or throwing shit against the wall and see what sticks for a few minutes before you play the, I guess, unpaid copy of Supermassive Black Hole.
Muse, the Uprising. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super stoked to be on I think the first ever Mycadelic Park cast out here in Cheeseman Park in Denver on a beautiful 60-degree sunny day. And later this week, we've got our first ever online film festival, maybe one of the first ever in the world, I guess, in this new digital existence. And we're starting off Wednesday, which is Earth Day. Speaking of this planet continuing to do its thing, we're going to watch a film called Metamorphosis about our evolving planet, the kind of metaphor of a butterfly starting as a caterpillar going into the chrysalis, which I feel we're all in right now, and how are we going to emerge? Friday night, we've got a film called Finding Joe about the hero's journey and Joseph Campbell's work and how that plays out in each of our lives.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, and then Sunday, the finale will be Journeys to the Edge of Consciousness. That's going to be a matinee, and we're going to be joined by the filmmaker and the lovely Dr. Gabor Maté and Maria Papaspyrou, also from the film. And all three of these events are meant to be interactive. We're going to have live music before them. We're going to have mindful movement to help us not only just get up and move a little bit and get out of those screens for a bit, but also to help us process the feelings and emotions that come up somatically. And then we're going to have discussions with the filmmakers after each of these films. For Metamorphosis and Finding Joe, we're also going to have some special small breakout groups where we're going to use some facilitators to really help us dive deeper in connection with each other. So yeah, grateful to be able to host something like this and have people from all over the world be able to join us.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, that's the thing that I love about what you do is that you get people together to watch a documentary. Like, we would watch a documentary and then chat after it. Like, I remember me, you, and Kendall watched some of the Power of Myth on Netflix and then had like a 2-hour rap session afterwards, like unpacking it and talking about the things that came to our mind, how we were feeling and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's just such a cool thing to do. I mean, always a cool thing to do, and then especially right now too. Just
yeah, it's. I think films are so great in helping us see perspectives, to understand life through other people's eyes, and especially now that we're in this new world and we're trying to figure it out ourselves, even though all these films were made before the time we're in now, I think by helping us to see new perspectives in film, it helps us to kind of look at this current situation in a new way. And I think the initial way was kind of disbelief or denial. Then we got into fear and panic. And I think now we've kind of matured with it a little bit, and it's time to kind of create new perspectives at this point, because I think we're at the point where it's time to transition into a new way of being.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, we're always transitioning into new ways of being, as human beings. We're always going through cycles of death and rebirth, and we find ourselves in a pretty critical period of time, because this is the first time in our known history that it's not just the tribe, the community, the state, the nation that's going through this. It's the world collectively. We are interconnected digitally for the first time ever. And Robert Wright, Surviving Progress, who mentioned that if you look at like the rise and fall, because like history is always told in empires, right? Like the lives of millions and billions of people are told in the stories in the containers of empires' rises and falls. And he's like, every empire that rose and fell, it was devastating, but it was devastating on a smaller scale because it was contained to a smaller geographic area. Now it's the whole world. So it's like, wake up fucking time. Like, this is the real deal, like metamorphosis, like the massive, supermassive collective butterfly.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me because so many other disasters, everyone that I've kind of been alive during has been a disaster of the natural kind that affect a certain geographical area and have ripple effects to, usually affect the rest of the world, typically in more economic ways. and there's terrorist attacks and things like that drastically affect one specific area, more so other country, or more so, that country, and then trickling down to other areas. But with this really just affecting everyone as a whole, it's so interesting, because every kind of personal challenge that I have in relationships and with family, it's everywhere, and it really, I think, more than anything I've ever experienced, it gives perspective to the situation of saying, okay, this might be a certain amount of bad or scary for us, but imagine how bad it is for so many others. I mean, 90+% of the world dealing through this is probably in a much, much, much worse situation. And gratitude is what pops up in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, my hope is that you're right. It is a lot worse for other areas. Like, I remember hearing about the Chilean government basically went into like full lockdown, like right, like the first day that there was like a notice of this, way early on,
So is that smart or not?
I'm like a very harsh lockdown, but Sweden hasn't really done anything, and they've left it up to the people to kind of voluntarily self-quarantine and stuff. And Sweden's doing like really well, but I think that having just being grateful, in these other places where it could be worse, right? Or maybe they don't have protection and then it's spreading more or something like that. But being grateful to be where we are, and then reflect on where we are and recognize kind of like our first world American privilege, I think is really, really important, because then we can kind of step up and do something to actually make real change. Like, we're privileged to have the opportunity to be grateful so that we can make change.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've felt like that since starting GoodCinema, that I have this obligation to help drive change, because I have privilege, and that's it's something I think worth acknowledging, because that's kind of the first step in understanding, I think, what my kind of role and purpose might be in this world. And in this case, it's the privilege to not needing to be fighting for survival at this point. I have my basic needs met, and thanks to our family situation, a decent amount of runway if things get really bad. And sure, then things get scary for us too, but while we're not having to deal with just the survival parts, what can we do to help elevate the message, and what can we do to provide access for those that want to be a part of what we're doing and want to have a voice? It's helping those people be seen and heard and supported.
Yeah. And I have to say, it's a great time to be alive, where we have things like 420. And yesterday was Bicycle Day.
Yeah.
We celebrated Bicycle Day, and we were both telling stories at the MAPS Bicycle Night after party, and the Bicycle Day, for those, I'm sure everyone's familiar, but the Albert Hoffman, who invented LSD and took the first documented LSD trip. But this is the kind of fun world and loving and awesome and cool world that I want everyone to have access to too. I think it was Daniel Pinchbeck that wrote in his book How Soon Is Now, it might have been that the atomic bomb and LSD were invented around the same time, and since then we've been on two different trajectories, one of like war, authoritarianism, dominance, control, fear, and the other, the one that we love so much, love and fun and interesting gatherings and community and connection and healing, and that's what I love so much about Journeys to the Edge of Consciousness, is that it took it seriously with all of the traumas and problems that we face, and then it also painted this really cool, fun picture too that was like digestible. And it's like, that's the kind of world that I want to live in, one that like is embarking on the journey of fun and love and just awesomeness.
Yeah, well, and amidst this pandemic, I mean, lest we forget celebration. And it's people aren't able to celebrate their graduations this year, and but I mean, what ways can we find for celebration? 420 here in Denver is usually a huge thing, where there's tons of concerts and a big festival downtown, and none of that's happening, is it our obligation then to smoke up while we have this chance together, and just to celebrate and just to do it in a little different way, and look at this as a cool and fun opportunity to do something that we normally wouldn't do. I think this is if we can, I think that's where love comes in. Love really helps open up creative pathways and helps kind of push the fear away for a minute and really enjoy the good in things. And I think that's when the creativity starts opening up into, how is this quiet time, this distant time, an opportunity to find new ways of celebration. And we've already seen kind of many ways of, at least I have, of connecting with those that I haven't been doing as much connecting with. And we've been finding fun, creative ways to play games, and we've had like this really fun trivia game on Saturday night with a bunch of friends, and I've done family game nights, and we're still living, and as I think it was Dave Chappelle said, life's a celebration, bitches.
Yeah. And it's like, it's nice to see too the resilience in people with this crisis happening as well, and I'm someone that definitely dives into the dark and gets into the conspiracies and the what is going on, what are the power structures trying to do, and what are they going to implement, and they're going to control us all, and we're all going to be slaves, and we're going to live in this microchipped crazy universe. And while there might be truth to that, it's like I have to be careful with that, because I don't want to get sucked down into that toxic paradigm, so I have to sort of try and muster up and this courage and this love to bring it forth, to create something. If you don't like the old model, create something new that makes the old model obsolete and unappealing. And it reminds me of this quote that I want to share with by Terence McKenna, who says, we are nature, like we're not separate from nature. We are nature. And he says, nature loves courage. You make the commitment, and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream, and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. This is the trick. This is when all these teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold, this is when they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done, by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's a feather bed. And that reminds me of what you said about the butterfly. Like, we're in this point where we need to emerge, have courage to emerge.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that brings up something that I was thinking about over the weekend after it was brought up in conversation through the Archipelago WhatsApp, and it was about the military flyover of planes, and someone had brought up in there that they weren't sure how they felt about it, because it seems that the resources that are put towards flying these multi-million-dollar jets all across the Front Range to kind of show support during this time could be spent on extra healthcare equipment and actually kind of fighting the pandemic itself, if you will. And that kind of got me thinking about kind of our, is this military posturing? Is this, some special thing? I think afterwards someone might have said it was, also to kind of commemorate the graduation of the Air Force cadets, which I think is a great thing in itself. But just a bigger thought of, when we have, huge sporting events, we do the flyovers and we do these things, and these military flyovers are part of it. And if that's been our way of doing things, why? What does that prove? To me, at least, it shows this kind of posturing of, we're strong, we're in this together, this kind of, it makes us feel this pride inside about our country. But why do we really need that? I think, if anything, this is showing us that we're deeper than just a country, but we should have pride as humans and in supporting each other and just coming from straight love. And so, anyway, that got me thinking in bigger ways of what are ways of, instead of posturing and taking this position of power and tribalism in that way, how can we associate with each other and build up ways of kind of pulling people together as one tribe that involve love instead?
Yeah, I think we're doing it. I think everybody who's like listening to this show and who's in like people that we're friends with and other people that are doing creative things, we're doing it, and it's just like on more of a decentralized kind of scale. It's not what you see in the mass the dominant kind of narrative, and that dominant narrative is one of this nation is a sports team, and the flyovers are the cheerleaders, the pump up the jams, the get the mascot out there, rally the people. Let's because it's really important to have, from a psychological perspective, as like a nation, to like indoctrinate the people to believe that we're all on this one team, and that we have this one common belief and this one common goal. We're all in this together. If you've seen any of those ridiculous like celebrity things, like in their homes, like in their mansions with their pools and their servants, and they're like, we're all in this together. It's like, no, we're not. You're in gated communities with security guards, and like, come on, we're not like, yeah, just relax and just whatever. It's like, that's not what we need right now, but this is the current ideology. This is the current story that we've been following, is this kind of, dare I say, like patriarchal, egoic kind of manifestation of material things that show like a rally for support,
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. When you said paternalistic, that brought up some big thing in my mind, and it was that, we need more women leadership across the board. And what I was thinking was this kind of period that we're in, if we look at like what's this kind of historic female role that we as humans have put our women in, and it's this role of like the homemaker, the caretaker, the one that stays home, and it's like we've all been put in that role now. And now families are, a lot more men are cooking. I mean, I'm the one that does the cooking in our house, but my wife does more cooking now. We could flip that there. But it seems that everyone's kind of taking on these kind of more home roles together, and I don't know, it's the first time I've thought of that, but I wonder if that's going to cause more empathy for women from men, or allow more kind of handover of leadership.
Yeah, men have kind of tricked women into accepting their role throughout civilization, as having certain places for things. And the way that they do it is, definitely through manipulation, but also through force and institutions and policies and laws. Yeah. And then we've all been kind of tricked into a slumber to be in a little bit of fear, to be told our roles and what we are to do and to be. And the world would be such a better place if every individual was empowered to be their true, connected, authentic self. And when women are their true, empowered, authentic, connected self, I find nothing sexier than a strong, independent, empowered woman who, it's such a different kind of leadership and a different kind of grace and a different kind of energy that is provided by us. But we both need each other to rise to the occasion, to be that true self. I had this wonderful guest on the podcast recently, Hallie Rose, and we talked about that, and how, it's not, the argument isn't we don't want women to be like men, we want them to be equal, we want everyone to be equal, but we want them to be fully empowered in their true feminine spirit, and for men to be truly empowered in their true masculine spirit.
Yeah, and I think it's deeper too. I mean, there's
oh yeah, baby, get deeper.
To the beginning of what you were talking about, it's Brene Brown talks about this a lot. This power with versus power over, and instead of looking at each other as the problem, solving problems together, and embracing our masculine and feminine. But I think it goes the part that goes deeper is that we're all a blend of masculine and feminine, and
right.
And I'm hoping comes out of this is that the men embrace more of the feminine and say, I have these feminine parts to me, even if they're not labeling them as such. There's no sports to watch on TV, but there is a lot of dinner to be cooked now, since there's nowhere to go out to restaurants and bars. And so, there's family time now, and it's being with the kids. And maybe that was what mom used to do more of. And I hope what we get out of this is more, I guess, just appreciation for each other and each other's roles, and appreciation for oneself as being more than just macho posturing if it's from a man, and saying that I can do these things too, and I embrace them, and I want to help with these things. And
and wouldn't that be so nice if that was injected into our like cultural hierarchy, into our societal hierarchy? Like we definitely, there's massive imbalance. Our leaders are not healthy feminine and masculine roles. They don't represent those blends. There's something that I think about quite a bit. It's like we live in this world where we look at like politics in this like vacuum, as if it's just this one singular thing. and then it's like, okay, spirituality is over here, and like this is like the Burning Man spiritual community, and this is the psychedelic community. It's like, I really would love to have like a full vision of the world where all of those things come through as like a truly unified, like integrated self that could represent positions of leadership, right? Like imagine if our government had a diverse range of leadership. Look at all the people that are in charge in Congress and stuff. Most of them are lawyers. Most of them are just lawyers. What about like school teachers and artists and poets and musicians? And, you would think, well, what do they know about like policy? It's like a new policy will be created, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, I hear that, and I, myself, I've wanted to run for office, and I think I may one day, but damn, I don't want to wear a suit and go in these stuffy ass buildings. Like,
no, that's what I mean. We'll change it.
Yeah, but it's like you got to play the game. You got to play the rules of the game to change the rules of the game, and so
or maybe just invent a new game.
Yeah, but first you have to play by the rules that exist, and I think that's the part that so many people feel disenfranchised by, because there typically is a financial requirement.
I think that's the point, is to make people feel
Right.
disengaged and disempowered.
Yeah, and so I guess what can we do as communities to lift people up, to say, you are a leader in our community, you're a leader among our tribe and our group of people. What can we do to elevate you into the political realm so that we can really make changes at a systemic level instead of just bitching about them?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely what's happening right now, is in the virtual space, there's a lot of people that are reaching out and connecting with each other and bringing people together. And like, I just love to see like how that ripples out. Like the longer that this crisis goes on, like how can we come together to create better solutions that work for everyone?
I mean, could this catalyze a groundswell of support for people that aren't 70-plus-year-old white men?
Right. Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, let's just start there.
I mean that, like, and I've said this ad nauseum, but like the fact that the machine pushes us all into a corner and says, these are your two options, deal with it, is absurd. That's an absurd system. It's not representative of this country that we have, of diverse people, backgrounds, cultures, ethnicities. Like, to be forced into a position to choose between demented 77-year-old lunatic and an orange spray tanned monster is absurd.
Yeah, it's like, eat your peas or carrots. Like, I want Brussels sprouts, man.
Right.
I want cabbage. I want kale.
Yeah. How boring would it be going into an ice cream shop? Every ice cream shop only has chocolate or vanilla.
Yeah.
You're like, what? What about cookie dough, man? What about salted caramel? What about pistachio?
Right.
Give me some stash.
Yeah. Or like some, I don't know, smoked porter bourbon ice cream.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
get creative.
Yeah. These craft ice cream shops now are coming up with flavors one would have never dreamed of putting in ice cream, but they are now. And maybe that's what everything could be like. All we have to do is just reimagine. And unfortunately, I think the upward mobility of ice cream has a lot less barriers than in politics. But again, we can change that. This I think can be a catalyst for bigger movements.
Yeah. Yeah. Ice cream politics. Yeah, I mean, that's why I like psychedelics so much, and like the conscious kind of more spiritual type of people, is because they tend to be a little bit more open and a little bit more creative, and when you're open and you're creative, you can listen, you can learn, you can try things, you could fail, the fear dissipates a little because you feel like you're held in a community of people, both that everybody is seeking the same thing, like Archipelago, great community here in Denver that we're both a part of. Like, I feel that everyone's like supportive and wants to kind of hold each other on our journeys to find that one thing that we're all looking for, which is like a sense of belonging and connection and peace and joy and happiness and love. And a lot of people, you said like the imagination, a lot of people's imaginations have been like beaten out of them, and they just need to find it again.
Yeah, and I think we started this podcast off with the theme of fear and love, and so much that keeps coming up as, what's the reason we keep ending up with 70-year-old white men, and the fear is 100% it. It's that's what we
Fucking
know.
Whitey.
That's what we've had. That's
Kill
what we know.
Whitey.
And there's so many people in power and privilege that don't want to lose it, and fear of the, well, my vote doesn't matter. If I vote for this other person, that means this other bad person is going to be in. And it's we're playing not to lose. We're not playing to win.
Right.
And I don't mean win as in dominate. I mean win as in living the best lives we can as people. And that's where love comes in. Yeah,
that's what Chelsea said yesterday, which I thought was so great, was, about managing that Facebook page where there's all these like hateful comments and all this stuff. And she's like, we're all like racing around to pull all the weeds out, and we forgot to plant all these things that would be better,
Right. Yeah. And yeah, for every criticism of our president, maybe sure, he should be criticized, but maybe we can also add, how is one way that could be improved? Or how, even better, how is one way that I see myself improving? How can I be the change that I would like out of my president?
Yeah, I think this all boils down to this like paternal role thing, where we've all been so beaten down and conditioned to acquiesce to the larger power system to save us. There's like this savior complex. You see it in religion. We will be redeemed one day. The savior will come back. If I'm a good little boy or girl, I'll go to heaven. If I believe in the right things, then I'll get what I want or whatever. I'll be okay. I'll be safe. I'll be protected. Same thing with politics. It's like, I hope that, that they'll, if I vote for the right people, they'll do the right things. And it's like, how many times has that fucking not happened? It's like we have to start looking inward, in my opinion, to save ourselves from this kind of dependency model, and start doing things that feel right and authentic. And really, like the butterfly, I think, is coming back to me again. Past podcast guest Ramin Nazer on this show, who has an amazing Instagram account where he draws this wonderful art, had a butterfly, a caterpillar emerging into a butterfly, and the caterpillar was like, this sucks. And then when he was in the Chrysalis, it was like, holy shit, this is fucking terrifying. And then he emerged as a butterfly, and he's like, this is awesome, and it's like, we're in that like terrifying place.
Yeah, and it keeps getting more and more scary. And we look at history, and we've certainly come a long way from many worse atrocities, I think. It always feels like, at least as of late, that we're kind of on the precipice of more. But at a deeper level, I truly believe we're evolving into a state of setting ourselves up for what we, I guess deserve. And I as I said that, I almost hesitated, because I think that means good and bad.
Yeah, I think it means good and bad. I think it means like, it's just like, I practice with psychedelics and do work on myself, and I always feel that I'm ready for another like big healing journey when I get to a point where I'm starting to forget a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to feel some fear. And that's when I know, like, okay, I have a choice now. And that choice is to avoid taking a heroic dose and going into the darkness and seeing what's there, and continuing on this pattern, kind of like ignoring and pushing it under the rug and, whatever. Or to like muster up the strength and the courage to go, all right, I'm fucking going in. And whatever I'm going to experience, it's inescapable and unavoidable, and surrendering to that.
Yeah, surrender. That's so much of what I've been focusing on as well. That surrender and that fear. Fear, I feel, is this thing that boils up, and when we look externally at what's out there and we feel this deep uncertainty, fear creeps in. And then we look within ourselves and we feel that we've lost identity, and fear creeps in. And so if we can't trust what's outside of us, and it's hard for us to identify with what's inside of us, those both of those things are connected and anchored to fear. I think the way to set us free is to to listen to our hearts. I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but it truly is. I mean, that's the only thing that we know and that we really can trust, regardless of what's happening externally. It detaches the ego. It detaches this dependence and reliance on external things, and just looks deep within to say, what have I always wanted? What have I dreamed of?
Yeah, and I think this is the moment in this crisis where a lot of people are being forced into that position. My friend Sophia Rockland, who's also on the show, author of When Plants Dream, wrote a great article about the shamanic view of isolation and, the kind of transformation that can occur when you're forced into a sort of isolated space. And there's only so much like avoidance and distractions that you could do. Many people's distractions are going to the bar and drinking a lot of alcohol and, maybe having sex with a ton of other people and, things like that. And there's virtual distractions too, but I feel like there's only so much that you can run from yourself in isolation. And at some point you have to kind of own up to the feelings in your heart and like take a look at them. I would hope, for a lot of people, because I feel like that's the only true savior. You can only really save yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. I lost my thought, but I thought of just something. Just when we first met up and we're walking here to the park, this drunk dude was following us, drinking a huge can of Four Loko. And as you were talking about distractions and alcohol and walking away from our problems, I was just thinking of that and how he was a problem we were walking away from. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, no, I mean, but you're right. Like, it's like walking away from our problems. Like, when we're younger, if we have good parents and good people in our community, they teachers and whatnot, they tell us to like clean up after ourselves. Don't hit other kids. Don't invade their personal space. Don't be mean. Don't call names. And somewhere along the way, rising into adulthood, it becomes, it's a cutthroat world. It's dog eat dog. You got to do what it takes. Compete, produce, consume. And it's like, what happened to like cleaning up after our mess and being kind and being nice? Like, these are the values that obviously we feel are important that we try and teach to children.
Yeah, values. I'm glad you came to that. And one thought on what you just said. It's follow your dreams until you need to make a paycheck, and then it's do what's going to make you money, and they're both important. So yeah, just rethinking the paradigms. How can we shift these paradigms of following your dreams but making sure they fit into this world? And I think now, when the economy's shut down in so many ways and tons of people are affected, I think what it's exposing is we aren't set up in the way we need to be. We don't have protections in place to really ensure that our humans on this earth have their basic needs met. And that's been the case for billions on a daily basis that we've just been able to ignore because they're poor. But now that it's happening to so many across the world, many middle-class people and people that have a heck of a lot more are feeling it way harder than they ever have in a lot of ways. And I think that brings us back to values and what do we value? Yeah. Whether it's family, spending more time with them and realizing kind of how precious that is. I've heard so many people, I luckily haven't had a long commute in a long time, but people that have had 2-hour commutes now are saying, I'm working just as much, if not more, and I'm spending way more time with my family, and it's quality time, and we're doing things together that we've never done before. And when it comes to money, really looking at that as less of this kind of competition and making more just to make more, but how can money become an energy that supports what we want to do in life, how we want to give back, how we want to live. And when it comes to work-life balance, how can it just become a balance of life and work being something that contributes to the world, is a channel of your passion and your purpose that also compensates you fairly for what you're putting out into the world, and helping to create more pathways for people to do this and follow their passions so that we're not living these unhappy lives. Yeah. It really sheds light on because of, people look at this and say, oh, this is such a massive failure on the part of government and leadership and stuff like that. And it's like, is it really, or is it just a real big, bright neon sign that's flashing and saying, they don't care about you. They don't care about us. It really shines, the values of the system really come forward in these kinds of times because, we all, and it for me, it is like,
and for a lot of people is like bringing into, well, what really matters in life? How do I really want to be spending my life? Why am I here? And what is the point of all this, right? Is the point of this to run on this treadmill and be marching to the tick-tock of the master of the clock so I can make this paper, so I can buy these things, so I can have, all this stuff? It's like, it doesn't have to be that way. It's just that way because this has been the sort of value system that has been in place that, we've been like sort of tricked to going along with, or that we've gone along with and just kind of forgotten that there's other ways of being.
Yeah, and in that world we have to play that game, and
right, we're forced to.
Yeah. That game's been kind of shut down though in some ways, while it's still being played in other ways, which is forcing some bad things to happen for a lot of people, unfortunately. But at some point the game's just got to break. At some point it's not going to work anymore if this continues longer, and as really terrible as that is, it has to present a new opportunity for something that does serve everyone, and like what you're saying, the whole they don't care about us, it's wild. I don't even know why this surprised me, but it did when I saw that many of the SBA loans went to not small businesses and big companies and ones that didn't really need the assistance, like many small businesses that help make communities what they are and provide culture and gathering places and community and these things that are so vital to a place being worth living in, I think. Shake Shack just gave $10 million back because they said they didn't need it, and I think that's admirable, and I hope for more of that type of leadership from companies helping each other out, because that's how I think we're going to emerge from this as butterflies. Yeah,
definitely. I love this point that Charles Eisenstein made too in his essay, The Coronation. He talks about how the dominant power structure has shut everything down except for essential businesses. But his wife is a acupuncturist, I think, and there's masseuses and holistic healers and people of that ilk, and they're deemed non-essential, because there's this one sort of medical model, this one sort of dominant paradigm of what we consider to be essential and have value or legitimate, right? And it's like that, I imagine what that's a tremendous power to give away to someone, to say you deem what's appropriate and necessary, rather than us feeling what's appropriate.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I read that too, and that part really stuck out to me. My chiropractor is still open now because he's saying that he wants to stay open to help people that have kind of had injuries and are dealing with things to come to him instead of having to go to the hospital, to not overwhelm them, and that healthcare system for those that are most needing it, which I love. And if we look at this kind of as a bigger issue of our whole healthcare system having issues at this point, it's these what are still called alternative or holistic forms of healing. I think for so many people are so helpful for both physical, mental, spiritual, all kinds of ailments, and just for general wellness. And on a day like 420, where something like cannabis, which in my wildest dreams 10 years ago could never have thought that now would be considered an essential business, I think that shows us that what we consider essential is relative and subjective, and that maybe that should be reevaluated when we look at how are we going to redo our healthcare system, or how can we make this more affordable. Well, it begins with looking at what's essential for people to be well. It's not Doritos, and you can buy those very easily, but maybe things like
sometimes a little bit of Doritos,
right? Maybe things like acupuncture, and
when you haven't eaten for 2 days at a
and
festival, and someone's like, "I'm gonna get a sandwich and some Doritos," and slurp down.
You put Doritos in the sandwich at a festival.
It's beautiful.
But yeah, I mean, what's essential, I think, is what helps us thrive. And in a time like this, yeah, maybe we need to go internal a little bit. But I think what's essential is subjective to us. And maybe instead of everything being so government imposed, maybe there should be a gray area and room for interpretation.
Yeah, voluntarism.
I don't know.
Voluntary. Every act that people take in their lives is a voluntary act, other than government mandated rules and if murder was legal, like, would you kill someone? Like, I wouldn't, because it's just wrong. Like, it's morally wrong, but I always like to think of it as like I love music festivals so much, and I know you do too. And the first music festival, the first big music festival that I ever went to was Coachella. And I remember when I went there thinking, everybody's here to do the same thing. Everybody's down with the same thing. Everybody's here voluntarily. No one's being forced to go to Coachella at gunpoint. Like, everybody respects and obeys like the etiquette of the festival and the scene. And my thought from that, like, transformational experience for me was, why can't we create the world this way? Why can't we create communities and societies this way? Like, life as a festival, like a representative of that ethos and those morals and those values, and the predominant one is like for fun and enjoyment and love. And
yeah, well, my hypothesis is that at a music festival, everyone's on the same team,
right?
And in this world we've created, there's these structures of power and division and dominance and posturing and just all these forms of power over that don't allow for really the collective, and they really try to shut the collective down and try to keep their voice elevated as the highest, and with these monopolies and conglomerates and there's not the diversity of voices like there could be. And again, I think a bright spot in what this pandemic has brought about is more opportunity for diverse voices to speak up and speak out. And but yeah, man, I totally agree. Music festivals are just wonderful. They feel so free and like it's this co-creation, and we're all in this shared energy together, and it's all about just love and fun. And maybe it is some disconnection as well. But I believe at the heart of it, it's about using that time and space to connect with yourself and others. And many music festivals have been a meditative experience for me in a lot of ways, and fulfilling in my connection with myself and higher being and others. And yeah, if we just sprinkle in a little bit of that into our normal life interactions, which I've felt it as of late, just in the way we talk with neighbors now. It just seems like there's more compassion, and I think that's a start.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Rebecca Solnit writes about this in A Paradise Built in Hell, where she talks about, in times of great crisis and disaster, that you actually see people coming together and helping each other and supporting each other, rather than the opposite myth of everything would be chaos. And I witnessed it firsthand, both being in New York for 9/11, but I was young then, and also when I was older with Hurricane Sandy that hit New York. The next day, everybody was going up to each other and checking on each other. Are you okay? Like, do you need anything? Like, so much compassion and empathy and love and connectedness was able to birth out of that, because when crisis hits, all of these thinly strung together illusions of what we conceive the world of, or we participate in the world to be, that we're like making, dissolve and bring us back into what really matters, what really counts, what we really deeply feel and want in our hearts. What everybody deeply wants and feels in their hearts. Everybody wants love. Everybody wants connection. Everybody wants community. Everyone really, really wants that really deep down. And when that moment of crisis comes, it's a clearing away of all the bullshit. And it's like, oh yeah, like that's what's really real,
Yeah. On the other hand, one might say, never let a good tragedy go to waste.
Yeah, Rahm Emanuel said that, among many others.
Right. And so I wonder, how can we that want to use this as a way to really better the world through compassion, love, fun, freedom, etc., you not let this go to waste, and really use this as an opportunity to grow in the direction that serves us.
Yeah, I think it's just about everybody that feels like called to create something, to create and to connect and to reach out. People listening to this show, if you feel inspired by like what Bill's doing or what I'm doing or whatever, you just like enjoy this conversation, like feel free to email us, like message us, and like I always want to promote. I feel weird sitting down while you're standing. I always want to promote like that kind of stuff because, you know, recently I started doing these things called Isolation Tank, which is like this live streaming show with a bunch of other creators. And I had the idea because I was just like, I want to bring people together, and I want to like do something that we can all be like held and supported, you know, and in our individual like creativity and stuff. And I think that's the way. I think the way is organizing, supporting, and tapping into like what you want to create. And it reminds me of this thing that I heard Daniele Bolelli and Chris Ryan talking about like the value. You know, Chris Ryan, who, I mean, wrote Civilized to Death, which is like such a poignant book right now. We were talking about the value of like creating things with other people, like having the freedom to have time rather than like sitting in your home and just like ordering a coffee table on Amazon, but to like get together with people and be like, hey, I'm gonna like make a coffee table. Do my friends want to help me? And it becomes this like group endeavor in this project, and that's a bonding experience. And then like the table has a memory to it, and it's worth more, and it's like more valuable because it means something to you and it represents something.
Yeah, well, and then that brings up, I guess, something bigger. It's that this thought of what is it that we want that we don't have in the world, and instead of saying, well, that sucks, we don't have it, or, well, I'll wait for this to be made, why can't we create it ourselves? And you brought up Archipelago earlier, and that's what kind of came to my mind. It was a group of people that said, we want an intentional community meant for personal growth, and so they created it, and now it exists, and it's growing, and it's becoming just this super enriched community. And I felt the same way with GoodCinema. I wanted something that existed for people to come together and talk about things that mattered and watch badass films that were inspirational and helped us kind of look at ourselves in the mirror every now and then, and gain new perspectives from others, and do that as a community and grow and explore the world together through film. And you've done it with your podcast. And what are ways that we can kind of support others in doing this? Because the barrier still comes up in my mind, and that's time, right? And that's, well, I have these other obligations, or maybe in some cases it's just energy and motivation because they're so kind of torn down by the stress of other obligations, and jobs, etc.
Fear too.
Yeah,
fear of like, I mean, a lot of that we probably both still experience that too. It's like this fear of like putting a part of yourself out there, and having people, like I always think of the movie Back to the Future with Marty McFly. Great like movie, by the way. It's like really deep and in its meanings and metaphors, and like when he goes back in time, like his dad, like you've seen Back to the Future, right? Yeah, like Marty McFly's dad, George McFly. He's like this dweeb who gets pushed around, never really like followed his dreams, like played it, was too afraid to like make anything happen, and he has this kind of like shit life, and the relationship's not good. And Marty McFly goes back in time, and he's like, he tells his dad, like, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And he inspires him to create. And that transformation occurs when he goes back. And it's like, that is the thing, really, is that overcoming that fear of being judged or having failure. And that's why I think we both like these spaces like Archipelago, because they say, you're welcome, come in, and put something forward, and we're not going to like lambast you and ridicule you and make fun of you. Same thing with down at the temple at the ayahuasca center. It's like people are encouraged to like really get it out, purge it out, put it out on the table. Well, there's support, and that support comes in the form of being seen and heard for who you are, and acknowledged, and not dismissed or shut down or put down or any of those things. And it's other people that may have different dreams themselves, but for the most part, at the end of the day, really want to help raise up others around them. And it's kind of this kind of value of service. We're in service of others by being in their presence, by acknowledging them, by seeing them for who they are. And I think that's another really kind of good takeaway from all this is,
we're all saying, well, how can we help? How can we support you? Those that are in need. I think it's starting to see people for who they are as we strip away this economic world as it just kind of shrivels at this point. How can as we pull that away, start to see people for who they really are, what pain they have, what love they have, good, bad, see them for that beautiful being they are.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not an easy process either, too, because we're all dealing with our own shit as well. And then, so it's like, but that's the thing, I think that's the trick, is like knowing that you're never really fully there. When you think you're there, you're not there. And what I mean by there is like being like, oh, I'm completely, like, I have no issues, like, I'm just totally accepting and caring and giving. And it's like, well, we're all human beings, we all feel a sense of like, little bit of like competitiveness or jealousy or resentment or fear or anxiety, or like I want to do that thing, or I want to be this thing, and I want to create this thing, and but for the process for me is just recognizing that, I think like for a lot of people maybe shame themselves of like, oh, I shouldn't be like that. I should just be all is one and everything is light and everything's beautiful. And it's like, yeah, that's a good thing to aspire to, but you have to remind yourself of that by acknowledging that we're all human and we feel these things, allowing that space to come up so that we can, do our best to aspire to the things that we want to do, and also allow room for other people and allow that support. Does that make sense? I had like an idea of something that I wanted to say as you were talking, and I kind of feel like I lost it a little bit, but something to that extent in terms of like, really trying to like discover the best balance of being like an individual who's like putting forth their best and also allowing room for others to do the same.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up doing your best as I think that was the fourth agreement in the four agreements. I find that so important right now because
I've never read the four agreements, by the way, because I got the fifth agreement.
Okay.
And people were like, "Oh, just get that one." But I think I got to go read the four agreements.
Yeah. The fifth is nothing without the first four.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one is
they
be impeccable with your word. I mean, as a podcaster, that's
everything that you've heard so far has been a lie.
Yeah.
So I just want to let everyone know.
Right.
I'm only here to profit off you people.
So anyway, the do your best. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, this is a great opportunity to do my best and to do all these things I've always wanted to do and be the best at them. And it's like, it's also really hard at this time to kind of motivate and do a lot of things because there's just this heavy weight, it feels like. And I think that should be acknowledged too. And so many of us are going through things, and I felt that I've just been putting so much pressure on myself to be the best and do the best at this time that I haven't had the grace with myself. And so, and the book talks about this too, but the always doing your best is in the moment. It's whether you have high energy or low energy, or if you feel terrible, it's, even if your best that day is just making yourself breakfast, whatever your best is, it's having grace with yourself and that forgiveness and that self-love. Talk
to me a little bit about that, because I know you're a person that really does a lot of like deep personal work on yourself. And, so for me, a lot of the times as like a creator, I get that kind of feeling sometimes of like putting something out and like having a little worry or being like, oh, it's not good enough, or, like, oh, I don't know if I want to like maybe reach out to this person or try this thing or do this thing out of maybe fear or judgment. So, I have a process that I do where I try and kind of really come back to what the intention is, and like really focus on that. Is there anything that you do, like particularly as being a entrepreneur, creator?
Yeah, it's that's tough. What you just brought something up within me where I've kind of had this aversion to social media and excessive online time, and have really initially was focusing on having GoodCinema be an outlet for people so they don't have to bring these conversations online and we can get together in person and talk, and now we're back being forced to that. And so I've been kind of dealing with that internally, as well as this need to be taking as much advantage of this time as possible, that I feel I've been putting more pressure on myself than I need to. And we're both
Sorry,
kinda,
I'm moving around because I'm getting baked by the sun.
And
are you
I'm
wearing
liking
sunscreen?
standing in the sun. I'm not.
Yeah, neither am I. I don't believe it's real.
Cancer. So anyway, where I was going with that was
sorry to cut you off.
what I I guess I follow that too. The what is my intention with this? Sometimes I'll journal on it. Sometimes I just do what feels right and authentic in the moment. But I have been noticing a little more kind of second guessing myself, questioning myself, because I'm doing things I've never done before, like host an online festival.
Right. Like, am I worthy? Like,
yeah.
Who am I to,
right.
imposter
And
syndrome?
It includes some big names and all that. And it's, I guess it's deeper than am I worthy? It's how do I want to get this word out? Do I want to reach out to this huge audience? What is this big audience going to do? It brings up these things of fear and uncertainty, but we're already in uncertainty. And so, I don't know, I'm kind of like evolving into this side of,
That's a great fucking point.
Which one?
Yeah. I don't mean to cut you. You want to finish what you were saying?
No, go ahead.
About we're already in uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'll continue on that. So because we're in this uncertainty and I have these uncertain feelings, maybe they're just canceling each other out, and it's saying the only thing that's certain is uncertainty. So I'll just keep doing things that I'm uncertain about. And maybe that's the growth.
That's such a great fucking point, man, because it's like we're almost like forced now into these uncertain times.
Yeah.
And when you're forced into these uncertain times, it's almost like this attitude comes up in a lot of people, and I feel it myself too, of like, well, fuck it, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I'm more prone to take a risk. I'm more prone to take a creative risk. Something like that. I'm not going to go out and start licking toilets and stuff like that. Like some crazy.
Well, it's like
TikTok
the two
kid.
negatives make a positive. It's like I'm uncertain about what I'm doing, and everything else is uncertain, and so therefore that neutralizes it and it makes it okay. And I feel like it helps me kind of lean into that fear a little bit more and say, fuck it, I'm just gonna do this and see what happens and learn from it. And if this whole thing lifts and we're back in person, cool. If it continues, then also cool, because either way, it's a learning process. And I think what helps more than anything is that knowing that we're all in it together.
Yeah.
Which is a bigger lesson in itself, that I think says if we can take that lesson, how else can we all be in it together? How can we all support each other to be the best versions of ourselves?
Yeah, and it's so analogous of a psychedelic experience too, because uncertain times, like when you take psychedelics, you can go to an uncertain place, for sure, especially in a ceremonial setting. And I'm thinking of the ayahuasca center that I was at, where everybody comes in with their baggage and their stories, feeling like isolated with their problems, like, this is specific to me, no one can ever possibly understand. And then as we drink the medicine and as the process like unfolds, more like all that shit, just like, it's like you're thrust into this uncertainty, and then boom, you have to kind of like, you have to come to this point where you're just like, well, fuck it, I'm just going to tell everybody how fucked up I am and share everything, because that's the part of the healing process.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you tripped during the I guess stay-at-home orders?
Yeah.
Do you want to share anything about that experience?
Well, I didn't take a big dose.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I plan on doing a bigger dose. Yeah.
Okay. Did you get any insights that you wanted to share?
Yeah, the insight that I have is that nothing is really stable. It's only stable by the kind of agreements that we make to hold up the illusion of stability. I mean, we're floating on a rock in the middle of nowhere. We're birthed into being like magic, and why? What are we doing? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So it's like nothing is stable, nothing is permanent, And so the lesson that I got was like a lesson of impermanence.
Yeah.
Even in this relationship situation that I've had recently, I had to kind of like tangle with the fact that it's probably not permanent, and am I going to be okay with that? And then I thought, well, nothing is permanent.
Yeah.
And we want so bad to hold on to something and keep it for ourselves in this little tuck it away in this little box.
Yeah,
you know?
that's it. It's the control. It's needing to have it,
Mm-hmm.
and this fear that, oh, when it's gone, well then, you know, what's anything worth if it's just going to go away? And I think the best lesson I've ever gotten in impermanence was at Burning Man last year, where there were these beautiful art exhibits, and then at the end of the week, they burn them all down.
Right.
What are you doing? These
Right.
are amazing. Why would you burn this down? You just spent all
Oh my
this
God,
time
that's right. I
building
just
this
realized that is the
and
most
creating this.
every
And-
year. That's the lesson of
Yeah.
impermanence.
Right, and it's like, this is amazing, and then just boom, gone. And I didn't realize like that made them almost that much more special. And there were some that I didn't get to see, and I was there to see them burn, and I was like, well, shit, I didn't enjoy this while it was here.
Yeah.
And I think impermanence teaches us more than anything to appreciate the moment, appreciate the people, appreciate the things that you truly value that won't be there.
Right. Yeah.
When
I'm
they're
gonna
gone.
quote Jason Silva quoting Alain de Botton, who runs the School of Life and is a philosopher and writer, and he talked about, he's like, he cries when he doesn't cry most of the time because of a sad or tragic situation, but the real cries are the ones of the recognition of the ultimate beauty of something that's passing, that isn't there to stay, that it's something that's fleeting, that it's never attainable, but it's so beautiful in that moment, and so enjoying it in that for what it is.
Yeah. We cry when we witness immense beauty, but yeah, maybe it's deeper than just immense beauty. It's knowing that that beauty is impermanent, whether it's just a sunny day, knowing that clouds are going to come, or night is going to fall, or a flower, knowing that the seasons change, or humans, knowing that we're not going to be here forever.
Man, you're hitting on something real deep now, because it's like our entire civilization is structured around that we're going somewhere, that we're getting to something, that we're all like, that the thing is coming. This fucking great Alan Watts talk on YouTube that I like, where he says, the point of life isn't to like get to something. It's like life is like music. The point of music isn't to get to one crashing chord at the end. It's to dance along the way. Like, what's the point of dancing? It's just to fucking dance.
Yeah. I mean, that's, The Alchemist, I think, is the best book about that. Just that the destination is the journey, or the journey is the destination. It's our process, it's our practice, it's our ritual, and it's our every single moment that should be the most cherished versus where we're trying to go. I think the key is picking, maybe instead of destinations, checkpoints along the way, to then work back and say, what is my daily practice to get there that's going to bring me the most joy?
Imagine if that was like our mainstream media. Like, imagine if the way that the world was structured was in this kind of way, with these values and with these insights, where you would turn on the television, it would be like, hi, I'm just here to remind you today to check in, to see what's important in your life. And like, that's the news report, like a part of the news report.
Let's create a new news.
Maybe we will. Maybe
Yeah.
we should, yeah.
Like a little weekend update, but new age style.
Yeah, just like yeah. Has anyone done that before? Like, is there like a new age like news network?
I don't know.
There should be.
Let's figure it out. If not, let's do it.
Right. But just imagine how amazing that would be on this mass. Like, I condemn, and disparage like leaders, but leaders from an authoritarian position is what I condemn and disparage. Leaders from like real leaders are leaders that lead by example, that like show the way and that encourage with like wisdom, Great teachers, right? Same thing. Great teachers don't like tell you what to think. They invite you to get curious about thinking, and yeah, imagine if we just had those like embedded in our world. I mean, I think that's the place that I would like to see us go, but I think it starts from the ground up at the individual level, with everybody conquering their own individual fear and then creating and thinking outside the box and coming together, and and that continues. It's a pattern, a cycle.
Well, I think it's more about having the right questions and the right answers. Again, because of this impermanence, the answer might be something in the moment or because of someone's interpretation, but by asking the question, you invite a new perspective, you invite a new way of seeing something, you invite new knowledge.
But questions aren't welcome in this current paradigm, because questions raise uncertainty, and the way that the dominant civilizational structures operate is on certainty.
Right. But again, because we have this gift of uncertainty, that I've been really struggling with, and now I'm finally seeing it as a gift, that offers us the ability to ask questions that were shunned or scoffed at before.
Right.
It's now like, well, fuck it. I mean, no one's making any money, in tons of different industries. Oil just went to negative per barrel because there's so much extra oil that no one's using. Like, maybe we should rethink some things. What are we not doing in the best way?
Yeah, and to invoke Alan Watts again, he talks about the society that doesn't allow for the outsider. The society doesn't allow for the man on the hill, the traditional role of the shaman, like the one that questions things, the one that asks the questions, is insane. You're insane because you don't have a counterpoint narrative. All you have is the point, So it's time to introduce the counterpoint narrative.
Yeah, or I don't even think there should be a counterpoint, just many other points.
Yeah, well, totally, yeah.
Yeah, it's time to introduce new narratives
Right.
and bring in more of a collective narrative and thoughts from many people instead of just, a 70-plus-year-old white spokesperson for supposedly millions of people.
Right. Imagine if you had like some outside person that like came and lived in your home and like told you like what to eat and like what to do. You'd be like, what the fuck? Like that's not gonna work. Like, I said this recently too, like my favorite moments of life is when like friends get together to go on like a camping trip or like a cabin by the lake or like a ski trip or something, and it's like you have a group of people and everybody is like chipping in and helping, and like that kind of way of like organizing seems to be what we really as humans enjoy. I think a lot of people can relate to that, packing up the car, going to the beach, meeting your friends. You bring the frisbee, I got the beers, like cool, like I'll barbecue, you go to the supermarket and get the stuff, and it's like that, the joy of like making those decisions and coming together.
I love that shit.
No one wants to have like some dictator in that
right.
group.
That was my training for GoodCinema. It was setting up group friends trips and setting up festivals and like doing these things that involve creating fun experiences for people. I get so much enjoyment out of that because it becomes this kind of co-creative thing that the intention is for us to have as much fun as possible. And so it's what are the fun drinks and drugs and food and toys and all these things that we're bringing, and where are we going and what are we doing, and it becomes just this fun celebration.
Celebration of life, man.
Yeah, and it's
celebration
about
coming out of the
building
Chrysalis.
bonds. Yes.
Letting our wings spread and
so
fly.
how can we celebrate ourselves and our lives and each other and shit? I mean, that's, if anything comes out of this, it's a celebration.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So one of the conspiracies about this crisis right now is that people are like, 5G is causing it. The 5G radiation is causing the coronavirus. And have you heard of that?
Not enough to comment on it.
Yeah. So I heard.
I don't know what I believe, but go ahead.
I heard about it. I looked into it. I heard some compelling arguments, but then I thought about it after reading some articles and watching some videos, and I came to the conclusion that like it's actually detrimental to introduce these kinds of ideas, even if it's just like a thought, like, but they take off so much. So there's like so many people that think that 5G is causing it, So once you introduce these ideas, and we live in this like crazy like multiverse of fractalized realities where memes just shoot out into the into our atmosphere, and we hook onto them because we want meaning, we want to believe in something, we want like a simple answer to define complex, uncertain, chaotic times. And I thought about it, and I was like, it actually muddies the water of what the real danger of 5G represents, or what 5G is. And the real danger of 5G, in my opinion, is that it represents the advancement of the toxic dominator ideology of separation, isolation, disconnection, where everyone's like producers and consumers and
without buy-in from the people.
Yeah. Well, but it comes in this buy-in of things are going to be better, like things are going to be cooler, you're going to have faster speed, faster connection, you're going to have virtual reality, you're going to have all this stuff.
But I don't remember being asked or polled, do you want these better things?
But we all kind of like,
just this assumed thing.
We all just tacitly
like maybe
consent.
I was fine with 3G.
Yeah.
Maybe the world was better when we weren't watching fucking memes all the time.
Right. And I think there are real health concerns too about 5G as well. Just like there are with EMF radiation, right? Like go on Instagram, you can see ads for people selling boxers that prevent EMF radiation from your
just
phone.
having wireless in your home. I mean,
Yeah.
I watched this documentary that I don't know how true or fear-mongering it was, but this guy in it and this guy that had a talk afterwards said that everything in his home is hardwired. And so I don't know. What I do know is that I do know that we can manifest our own sicknesses. And so if we believe 5G really is going to do these things, in some people it probably will. And as JFK said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. I think
Did JFK say that?
I don't know. Someone did.
Dude, I love when
said.
quotes get like attributed. Like there's like so many.
He probably
quotes
did, but he
attributed
might have
to-
quoted
It was
someone else,
FDR.
like-
It was
Oh,
FDR.
yeah,
It was
there you
during
go,
World War
FDR.
II. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have nothing to fear but fear
Yeah.
itself.
So
this is a day that
that's
will
right.
live
That's why I heard it recently. 'Cause
in infamy.
this New Deal and where we're at now and all that.
Right.
But anywho, I mean, yeah, that's it, right? It's like the fear that we build up and these conspiracy theories and these stories and these thoughts, and it's like, well, maybe they are true, but what's our way of responding? Is our way of responding by throwing more fear at it, or is it by building a new paradigm and showing a new creative way of addressing the same challenges? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, these things are like really fun to talk about, and like I love entertaining them, but it really does just get back to that idea of people needing to do this individually. You know, like really going inward and facing your fears, your traumas, your demons, healing, and then having proper support, community, and integration to bring that forward, you know? And so, you know, no one's going to do that from like a top-down level. But what I do think that it's the artists and the creators, the musicians, the poets that inspire people to make those changes, that inspire people. Like I've been inspired by, like all my inspiration comes from artists, musicians, and movies, and poets, and authors. Like, who the fuck is inspired by like the stock market? Like, yeah, I saw the Dow go up 50 points. I just got an epiphany. I'm gonna create this wonderful land of love, and like, you know.
Well, it's like religion versus spirituality. You know, religion is
Right.
this thing that's based on
Exactly.
power and fear and dominance, and spirituality is a thing that's within you, and they're both supposed to get to the same place.
Center of the Tootsie Roll Pop.
Yeah, but I believe that spirituality, I think spirituality is a part of a lot of religion, and those that are very religious that I know that seem to be the most compassionate and less judgmental are the ones that have the most spirituality involved, and less of the dogmatic religious side of I'm right and you're wrong and I'm absolute and I know everything, and if you do this you're going to hell and this bad thing's going to happen. And yeah, there's just so much room, like you said, for us to look deep within ourselves, find that love, and honor our higher self by doing that.
What a fucked up ideology. Like anybody that preaches anything that says you better do this or else you're going to a bad place is completely fucked. You know, I mean, that's just like, and it works because of fear. You know, it works because of fear. And it's like this fucking quote that I quote all the fucking time that maybe people are probably sick of, but it's so amazing, from like Hitler's right-hand man during the Nuremberg trials. Hermann Goering basically said, like, if people are scared and afraid, you can convince them of anything, you know, and for the people that aren't scared and afraid, you can just denounce them as being pacifists and say that they're not loyal to the protection of unity of the country. So he's like, it's really easy to just move people to do anything, and it works in every nation and every religion and everything. Just tell them that they're being attacked and denounce the people that disobey or dissent.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
people turn on each other.
Right. Yeah.
That's the scariest
Our criminal
thing.
justice system is very much that way.
Yeah.
This stick and this labeling and this fear of them and the otherings, and so when again we have an opportunity like this that shows us how tightly woven we truly are, so much so that we can't even be within 6 feet of one another. That's how connected we are, that we have to be physically separated in our physical forms to not spread this thing that can biologically kill us. That opens up a lot of room for opportunity and creativity. One might say it opens up a lot of room for control and fascism, which, okay, but now we have tools in our belt that we can pull out, like the internet.
Yeah.
And we can really connect and organize and spread ideas and spread new thoughts and dreams and really create something amazing.
Don't you feel like the internet is like back to its like original intended form?
Al Gore
now?
would be proud.
Yeah, like I'm seeing that more and more people are using the internet as a way to connect and to get, like when AOL first came out, like people were like, oh, let's like go online and like just talk to people. And like I remember like when Twitter and Facebook first came out, like people would just post things like getting a coffee at Starbucks, like, you know, playing frisbee in the park, like status update.
Yeah,
you know,
it was cool to update.
it was cool to update what I'm doing, check into my location, look at my find my friends, see where I'm at, like, because that is what people want. We want this connection. So somewhere along the way we've got lost in that with, like, you know, comments and polarization and, you know, a lot of hatred and things like that. But I do get this sense of now that the internet is kind of being used a lot more to connect and to see family and friends and have Zoom calls and, you know, all this stuff. It's nice to see.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, the only ads I see now are for like home workout equipment, and yeah, it seems much less, at least right now, about, you know, where this new where the next Instagram model is at, and
they're at their homes,
right?
That's
just showing new virtual backgrounds from everywhere.
yeah.
Could be hanging over this waterfall. But yeah, instead of it being, at least it seems to me that instead of it being this big thing of here's what I'm doing now, check me out, look at me, you know, this big kind of form of narcissism, and it's become these, I've just seen a lot of kind of deep introspective questions coming out, and it really turning into, in a lot of cases, like constructive dialogue and a lot of kind of events to really help kind of bring people together. And yeah, it's been beautiful to see more of the connecting versus dividing side of what the internet is capable of.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. And I love like the resilience and like the adaptability that we're able to like keep the silver linings and like go with something that's bad and create something that's good. But then there's also a part of Charles Eisenstein's essay, The Coronation, that really appealed to me too, which he said, like, how much are we willing to sacrifice in the name of safety and security and health? Like, how much are we willing to sacrifice what kind of a world do we want to be in? Do we want to be in a world where we can never come close to each other, that we have to stay 6 feet apart? Like, human beings need physical touch. We need to be in the mere presence of each other, you know?
Let me turn it on its face. What are we willing to sacrifice in the face of economic health?
Right. Well, yeah.
I mean,
elaborate on
right?
that.
Well, I mean, for so long it's been status quo. Our economy's great. The Dow is like the highest it had ever been,
which is weird, right?
Sure, yeah. Well, income for the middle class family hasn't gone up in years. The Dow is skyrocketing, right? And so as the stock market goes up and that financial health looks really, really good, our healthcare system is failing, our education system is failing, everything basically except for our military and prison industrial complexes are failing. Pharmaceutical, we'll throw that in there too. Outside of those systems, everything else was kind of failing, but it's almost like the economic system acts as a mask.
It is, yeah.
It's a mask. Whereas health, our personal health, that's the mask being stripped away.
Right.
And I think that's the big difference, is now we have both of them being stripped away, and so I think it's our time and time out, and that's kind of what we're sacrificing in the face of a health crisis. It's, you know, nope, we're keeping the mask off too, and we're not going to come back until we're ready, and it's gonna really suck for people, which really sucks. It really does. But I think, like anything, we have to open the wound and clean it out to heal.
That's what it is, right? Like the true state of the economy is a life raft with like 75,000 holes in it, and every thing that you just mentioned, you know, like the pharmaceutical industry, the Dow, these are things that are being artificially propped up to keep things going as status quo and normal. So we just keep like putting these you know, pieces of tape over all the holes to just keep us afloat. But it's fucked. The raft is Swiss cheese, man. It's not real. Like, I'll give you an example. The Federal Reserve pushed through like all these regulatory things they used to have that would prevent them from entering into different kinds of asset buying and things like that. The stimulus package that was passed. It was like all these trillions of dollars like went to these big banks and corporations and things to keep the economy afloat, while kind of like giving people a little like, peasant, like, here, have a little something. And it's like, that tells you everything that you need to know about like where this ship is what this ship is made out of, and how it's, what the structural integrity of it is like to keep these things afloat. And it's artificial, it's fake. So when they passed the stimulus package and decided to give everyone a $1,200 check, they get the money from the Federal Reserve, which just creates it out of thin air. What I said was, I was like, okay, if you're going to pass a $4 trillion stimulus package, why not pass a $6 trillion one? Why not a $10 trillion one? Why not $100 trillion?
Right.
And just give everyone $100,000, because it wouldn't make sense, because then we would all realize this is all fake.
Yeah. Well, and instead of basing our retirements, our 401ks on the market and Social Security, which is going to run out, like, why not just make it to where people are cared for? And, it's like this universal basic income thing, make it graduated to where when you hit a certain age, you get more, because your level of working is, or your likelihood of working is probably less. And it seems like common sense things of taking care for people. And then it's like, well, where are we going to get the money? Well, no one ever asks where are we going to get the money when we talk about building billion-dollar planes and ships and missiles and all this shit just to posture ourselves against other countries.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, well, that affords us freedom. Well, does it? How do we have more freedom than other places that have basic needs met and have the freedom to pursue creative opportunities and have stable housing and education and healthcare and food on the table? And these are all part of kind of more socialist systems, which is kind of a bad word. And I'm not advocating for socialism as much as I'm advocating for us as humans having our basic needs met, so we have much more upward mobility, especially those in marginalized communities, to really reach the higher levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because that's how we're going to evolve as humans.
Totally, man. And I think it's like, forget about all the isms. It's just a simple matter of fact of like, if say like you got like evicted from your house or something like that, or like you had like a hurricane like hit and you had to, although there's no hurricanes coming to Denver hopefully, but if you were in a terrible situation and you needed something, your friends would all step up to help you, and that we're so far detached from thinking of society and the government and stuff as being a group of friends, a group of people. Even like the fact that we don't know a lot of our neighbors and things like that. Like, I was thinking when I moved into my new place, like I was like, yeah, I'm on like a block. There's like people like it would be great to like go door to door and be like, hey, I'm Mike. Like I just moved into the neighborhood, just want to introduce myself. People would be like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? This is weird. Get away from me. Get off my lawn, man. But that tells you like how far disconnected we are from a lot of things, because I think everyone would agree that it would be great to have like this interconnected web of people that can depend on each other if they needed each other. And that is the kind of ism that we should be aspiring to, I think.
Yeah, I met this guy in Bali. His name's Benjamin.
I love how we're just like both like preaching to each other too. Right. By the way, we're like, this is what we need.
Yeah, fuck yeah. No, I met this guy in Bali named Benjamin, and he's starting something now called like the Global Consciousness Project, which is really cool. But he was talking to me about an idea called contributionism, and we talk about these isms, right? And I just thought that was interesting, because it was based on your contribution to the community, and based on what you're saying, I think that makes so much sense. If we're to look at a new world, I think we have to start looking at what our values are and basing our systems of trade on values and true values, things that we as the people value, that aren't just there for forms of control and power, but are there to really help lift each other up so we can become our best selves. We have to shift our goal to becoming evolved as humans and to become more conscious of what we're doing as a form of living our best lives.
It feels good to help other people too.
Yeah.
Like it feels really good to help others. And also there's that knowing of that if you ever needed anything, that you would be helped too. Like you're not alone, you don't have to rely on some, group of people wearing suits debating laws and things like that in some faraway place, that you can actually depend on the people that are around you and that they can depend on you, Yeah, there's this quote that Chris Ryan says a lot, which he says the best place for food is in your friend's belly. You know, it's like rather than like hoarding things and like stacking things up, and it's like from an indigenous saying, and it's like, yeah, the best place to have extra things that you have is for other people to enjoy.
Now I understand why Jerry was giving Kramer so much food.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Why wouldn't Jerry say, you know what, enough of this, like, you're cut out of my life? Because he loves Kramer.
Yeah.
You know, and Kramer comes over and does whatever he wants, and he's not really aware of it, and Jerry puts up with it because he loves him.
Yeah.
And they're friends. Yeah. Totally. I think we all have friends like that. I have a friend like that, you know?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
it's
And
great.
It's like, I love the guy. He's
Yeah.
just...
It feels good to give, and it feels good to, to contribute and to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And I think that's where a lot of us kind of, at least in the corporate world, kind of lose it, because it seems like what we're doing is really just helping a small amount of people make more money, or it's just keeping the wheels running of something that may not be doing much in the world, and it feels like we're not really contributing to something. And that's where I think the deep disconnection lies. At least that's where it did for me.
Yeah, because it comes down to like what you talked about before. I think I'm going to sit down again. It comes back to what you were talking about before about the like sort of being separate and like being out for just yourself, like, because you have to make these sacrifices and these concessions so that you can play the game, so that you can survive. And like so many people are in that state where they're like forced with a choice. Like, I got a family, I got a wife, I got kids, like I have to play the game so I can survive. And, you know, that's when we find ourselves in that state, you know, and we're maybe now is a time where people are starting to think a little bit more. And, you know, a lot of people who can, or a lot of people are working from home, and you know, maybe some people start thinking like, is this really what I want to do?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are, especially now because they're not with the community that was at their work. And in a lot of cases, at least for me, you know, when I was working in a corporate job and with startups, and it was being in the office and being among community and among coworkers that were good friends of mine, that made it worth going in, even when I didn't like what I was doing or who I was doing it for. That sense of community made it worth it, and I felt like I was contributing to them, and that helped keep me in it. And I think when that's gone, it's like the veil lifts and it's exposed for what it really is. And for a lot of people, I think it might be empty, but like you said, they need it. They need it to continue to pay the bills and care for family. And back to the question you asked, you know, well, what are we sacrificing in the face of this health crisis? You know, this brings up the deeper question of what are we sacrificing in the face of, you know, these things that we feel that we deserve for all the work that we put in, and you know, why can't it just be easier to say, okay, I went to school and paid all this money and put all these hours in, and then I've worked for this company, you know, for a long time, or multiple companies for a while. Now I want to do what I want to do. Why can't that be an easy option and an easy transition? Why does it have to be a choice?
There's a lot to overcome. That's why, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot to overcome. Have you read Sebastian Junger's book, Tribe?
No.
Oh, you should read it. It's a good book.
Okay.
Not too long. It's great. But he makes this point about like what you were saying about being in the office with people that you got along with and stuff. Like, he draws the example because he was with troops in Afghanistan, I believe. And he said, like, they weren't fighting for America, for the president, for the people. They were fighting for each other. Like, yeah, maybe they signed up for some other reason. Maybe they're disillusioned. Maybe it's not what they thought it was going to be. But when it came down to it, everything was all about your group of soldiers who you were with. You're in the trenches. You're fighting with them. And I think that's a great mentality to bring to the world that we live in. You know, it's like, do it for the people that you're around, the people that you care about. Like, I was feeling a little in despair recently, and my nephew called me up, my 4-year-old nephew, and my niece who's 2. And they're just so adorable, and I love them so much. And it was a great reminder of me to, like, yeah, I want to do things like for them too. Like, I want to create a better world for them. And if I have kids one day, like, for a better world for them, like, make them proud, make them feel inspired, show them a way, you know?
Yeah. I love that analogy too. I mean, yeah, the veterans I've met as well, they're fighting for their brothers next to them, and I think that's one of the hardest parts about now is, right now I'm in a park where there's people all over the place, very socially distanced. But I feel part of humanity being out here and being on walks and, getting outside.
In the sun.
Yeah, in the sun.
Nourishing.
But so often kind of just being inside and being isolated, you lose sense of that. And I think that's kind of part of the feelings of despair and grief and loss of identity are that, who are we if not in relation to others? Who are we if not connected to others? It's like the African word Ubuntu. It's our our life force and our meaning of life is through that connection with others. We gain our purpose of self through connection.
Yeah, and I think it's really bringing to the surface this deep, deep need to be connected to others, because rather than calling someone or texting someone, what are we doing now? FaceTiming, Zoom calls. Like, we want so desperately to be seen and connected with others that we want that they were doing it now through this medium of technology, this virtual space.
Yeah. But there's still that need. We're virtual, but there's still that need to be in person that I just felt, because I'm with you in person right now, and we could have done this virtually, but I said let's do it, and we're safe, we're outside, we're maybe 4 feet away instead of 6, but right. For the most part we're
well, I meant even just to clarify my example too, is like I have friends back in New York, and friends that I haven't really even talked to in a long time.
Sure.
And rather than texting or calling or whatever, or even just the fact that we all decided to reach out and connect with each other, but we wanted to do it so we could see each other too.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess in my kind of just going through the motions of every day, being busy in this pre-COVID world, I would text people and rarely call, and almost never show my face and be on video, and I had tape over my camera for so long after watching that Black Mirror episode. I recently just got one of those slider things so I can, shut it if I want and open it if I want.
Oh shit, I got to get one of those.
Yeah, they're good. Like $5 on Amazon.
Nice.
Or somewhere else if you don't want to support them. So I've recently just realized how wonderful that is, and how much more enriching it is. Instead of just getting that 7% of content from someone, I'm gaining much more because I'm able to read their body language. I may not be sharing their energy, but I'm able to see them and see their smile, and there's so much warmth that comes from that type of a connection versus just the content of what needs to be shared. Yeah, totally, man. Yeah, like so much of you're having Gabor Maté on the panel, and for Journeys to the Edge of Consciousness, and he talks so well about this society that we're in, and the people who are affected with trauma and coping mechanisms, and he worked with addicts. I mean, the guy is just so phenomenal, and he has so much to say about healing on an individual level. And I've also heard him talk really eloquently and deeply about the toxic culture that we live in as well, and he's really great on that. And I think that it's like what I liked about that documentary, that movie, that film, it was so beautifully animated, and I had Rob on the show, and it was a great conversation, and but there was this moment like where Tim Leary was like talking about like living in this kind of world where he had just been going with the flow, and he's like, I'm the parent, and this is my daughter, and this is like my role, and this is my identity, and all that was like shattered. And he has this great quote, I forget what it was, he's like, but there was no going back after that. He's like, I knew I was destined to walk with the mutants and like go into a whole other direction. He talks, he always like uses these words, Leary, about like masquerading, and like we're puppets and we're wearing masks and it's all a charade. And yeah, I love that. It's so much about, at least each of those kind of animated clips are so much about kind of the transformation that occurs in each of the individuals, Aldous Huxley, Timothy Leary, and Alan Watts. And I got to give huge credit to the voice actors on there, the wonderful job they did, and the animators. I love that kind of minimal animation, but to the content, just hearing that transformation of how they've gotten a beautiful opportunity to see life in a new way, from a new perspective. I feel that that's us now, and we're looking at things in a completely different way now because everything is operating in a different way. And before, a month or 2 months ago, rather, had we have asked ourselves, could you imagine all this? We would have said, hell no. There's no way that's going to happen. No one's going to let that happen. No one's going to stand for that. And here we all are, and we're breathing, and most are still living, and we're, for the most part, we're doing just fine. And we're starting to realize what truly matters. We're becoming more grateful. We're becoming more appreciative, and we're finding solace in each other, and I just think that's so beautiful.
You said something about like we're breathing, and then I heard you kind of like take a breath too, and it just reminded me of like how important that is, like whether I'm doing an intentional breathing practice or a meditation, or just finding myself getting caught up in the stuff that I'm doing throughout the day, and I just have time to take one deep breath. Like, and on psychedelics, when you breathe, everything is like clearer, and you feel into your body more, and you're like, oh my God, I'm really fucking in this thing. Like, this is really happening. Like, I'm really here. This is really like this fucking meat suit that breathes. And like, we're now in this position where we have the opportunity to take like a real collective, like planetary breath.
Yeah.
Nature is getting to breathe too.
Right. Well, and our bodies is really one of the only places we can be right now. I guess we could also be in our heads, but we can't be inside many places. And so, and getting in our heads doesn't always serve us, especially in these times when fear is amplified. Now it's time for us to get into our hearts, which is a part of our body, and start to feel things. And it's okay to feel the bad.
I have a quote that I made up, or
you made up?
Well, I'm always trying to like see, like,
just make up who said it.
Like the egotistical part of me is always like, I want like good like sayings, like I want to like have like a good saying, And so I said like, sometimes you have to go out of your mind to get into your heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I love that so much.
Quote me. Someone make a meme of that.
Yeah. I'll quote you, and someone else will come out and say they said it first.
Yeah, well, because so many of the people that I love and admire, I find these great quotes of theirs, and I like to share them and talk about them, and I just feel like...
Well, what that brings up for me is like flow state, right? Like, he was out of his mind. He was just performing at the top. That's what flow state is. It's coming straight from your heart and your passion, and being in something to where you're not even thinking about it in your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind is a million times more powerful, so it's able to do that. But we get ourselves caught up in this slow slog of a mind that just keeps playing things on repeat, instead of getting to our heart and allowing us to kind of change the track, if you will. Yeah,
that's how this whole fucking civilizational sham has been operated, to like make you cut off from that inner voice, from that intuition, from that intuitive space of being a child at play and wonder and curiosity and joy.
Let's get stuck in the rational mind for a long time and just rip ourselves from the inside because it's too hard to exist in this empty cauldron.
Yeah. Cool, man. Oh. Well,
but with the sun shining down and us sitting in the park on this beautiful day, I'd have to say that was by far one of the better conversations about life in this situation that I've had, and what a gift. Surrounded by dogs and children and families and friends, and people are throwing frisbees and eating sandwiches and just living life.
Yeah, the trees, the sun, the sky. Yeah, I mean, we're like definitely, it's just another thing that really truly wraps me up in this state of like, it's obvious to say it, but I just feel it so much, which is the feeling of like slowing down and like observing and paying attention and just like enjoying the sun and enjoying the trees, and like, that is something that comes up quite a bit for me also, and obviously for a lot of people in psychedelic experiences. How many stories have you heard about someone who's like, and I just like stared at this blade of grass for like an hour, and I just talked to this insect, and it's like, because everything is fucking amazing. Everything is alive and interesting if we only fucking pay attention.
Yeah, that's so true. Just the little things, and that's what I've loved so much about all the walks I've taken lately, is just looking at the flowers and and sometimes that's all you need.
And that was the thing about the 60s like hippie movement that got, like so many people like tend to look at that now and go, oh well, they, too fast too soon, and it was, blowback, and Leary was out of his rocker and made things worse. But they had the right fucking idea. Flower children, dancing around,
tree huggers,
hugging tree, like it was all like love, and I mean, that's the spirit that I worship or whatever, subscribe to.
I'm right there with you. It's, if you're not causing harm and you're happy, and why is there a threat? And if there is a threat, shouldn't we be questioning those who are saying that's a threat in and of itself? Like, love
and
is the
shouldn't
message.
It be a telltale sign that you're not
bad?
allowed to question?
Right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting world we're in today, Mike.
It's always an interesting world. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's always an interesting
I guess
world.
It's these pauses that help us realize how interesting it is, because we get out of that autopilot. And I thought of this analogy the other day. If the hamster stops, does the wheel keep running? And
right.
Yeah.
Well, I forget this study, bringing up hamsters and wheels. There was a study on lab mice. I think it was like an addiction study where they were like feeding them a drip of like cocaine and You familiar with this one?
Yeah, where the mice in the cage with just the cocaine kept taking it and got addicted, and there were other mice that were in community, or sorry, it was just one mouse, but then there was another one where they were in community with others, and they had wheels and toys and snacks and all these other things, and they took some of the drips, but just a little bit. Imagine that was like their music festival where they'd take a little bit, and the other might have been like a junkie where they didn't have support, they were isolated, they didn't feel that there was any hope in living, and by having community, by having other things and support, the mice thrived, and so can we.
Yeah. Totally. Here's to the thriving mice.
Of mice and men.
For sure. Should we wrap this thing up?
Sure.
Cool, man.
Is there a way you like to wrap these up?
No, just by kind of, I feel like we got into a groove of like back and forth about like our kind of, positions and insights and philosophical understandings of the world.
I can put a little upcoming event promo bow on it, and then you can put your Mycadelic seal at the end.
Seal of approval.
Yeah. So this Virtual Connection Fest, we're kicking off on Earth Day in 2 days, starting at 6 p.m. Mountain Mountain Daylight Time we're in now. The website is goodcinema.co/connectionfest. And that's where you'll be able to see our next few events. Then again, Friday we're doing Finding Joe, and on Sunday that's going to be 6 p.m. as well. And then on Sunday at 1 p.m. We're doing Journeys to the Edge of Consciousness, and we're going to have some musical guests for all three of those. The producer of the Psychedelica series, Ben Stewart. He's going to be playing us some acoustic tunes on Wednesday before we get started. On Friday before we get started, we're going to have Brett Randell, a local acoustic musician here in Denver. And then on Sunday, we're going to be having a friend, John Paul Maxfield from Coal Town Reunion, joining us as well. Check out his band. They're amazing. CoalTownReunion.com, BrettRandell.com for his music, and BenJosephStewart.com for his tunes as well. Hope you can all join us. Again, goodcinema.co/connectionfest. We're going to have Gabor Maté on Sunday, all filmmakers, and it's really going to be an engaging time where we allow people to be seen and heard through interactive movement, discussion, music, and breakout groups. So hope you all can join us. Much love.
Sweet, man. Thanks, dude. Yeah, always a pleasure spending time with you and rapping on waxing poetic and philosophical. I'll put all those links in there. Maybe if you can send me the links and stuff, I'll throw them in the show notes so people can go and click on them and stuff.
Totally. Yeah, we'll do that. And a social channel at GoodCinema Co. At GoodCinema CO is our handle on Facebook and Instagram. Follow us. Do whatever you want to do there. Yeah, thanks. Love y'all.
Nice. And it's great cinema, folks. I'm rebranding for you right now.
Fantastic cinema.
Fantastic, tremendous cinema. Well, yeah, that's about it. You guys know where to find me on Facebook, Instagram, Mycadelic _podcast. Go to my website, mikebrank.com, and message me. I always love hearing from all you wonderful people out there, and let me know how you're doing, what you're doing. As always, send me any kind of like art or things like that you want to promote. If you want to support, go to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star rating and review, and if you can, go to Patreon too. And then that's way to support as well, and then join the Mycadelic Inner Sanctum chat group, which I may be moving to Discord. I feel like Discord is a cool way to chat, but we'll talk about that. But anyway, whatever we do, it's much appreciated, and I really am sincere about that, like, kind of collaboration piece of things too, because I think that's really a sort of value that I believe in, is like helping support each other's work and creativity, enabling creativity and stuff as well. So I don't feel like I'm disconnected from the people that listen to this show. I feel like we're kind of more closely, intimately connected, and so I'm just like one of you, and we all help each other.
If I can just add one thing there too, I completely echo that. And I remember the first podcast I did with you, Mike, we talked a lot about that. And I just want to say, as I put this online film festival together, if we need to stay in the digital world longer, and even not, I want to continue to create more co-creative experiences. So check out GoodCinema.co. Hit me up. I'm Bill at GoodCinema.co. If you are a filmmaker, musician, artist, facilitator of any sort and want to co-create, because we're going to be doing more stuff either digitally or in person or both, depending on what direction we end up from here. So thanks.
Awesome. So shout out to Danny Barnett and Galaxia for the music that plays us out. Appreciate you sending me that stuff, and everyone else that sends their stuff and their messages. Love chatting with you guys. Until next time, be safe, be creative, inspired, and live long and prosper. Peace.